Hi, my name is Keith Cooper, Northlight Images, and in this video I'm going to talk about aspects of colour management, editing, choosing colour spaces for editing your images, printing your images, in fact whatever you want to do with them. Something I'm asked quite a lot about, and people are confused as to whether they should edit in a particular space or whether they should, set the monitor to a particular color space, and it's a general confusion. Now, I'm not going to go into details of color management theory here or anything like that. I'm going to try and concentrate on practical aspects. What I would say is that if you want to understand some of the background for color management, and it's not a mathematical one, this book, very well thumbed book, Colour Management by Bruce Fraser, Chris Murphy, Fred Bunting, Colour Management, Real World Colour Management is the title, has been my go-to reference book, sits on the bookshelves here for many years. It's out of print, I believe, but you should be able to find it secondhand. It's an excellent book. If you want to find out more, read this. There are chapters covering all different aspects of colour management, and you don't need to read the whole thing to do it. Read the introduction about what colour management is, and then look at some of the chapters relevant to what you do. There are parts of this I've only read perhaps once. Parts of this I've read loads of times. It's just a really well written book, nice and clear. Anyway, I'm going to talk about some brightly coloured pictures. This came about as an article I wrote a few years ago about picking colour spaces for printing pictures of very brightly coloured objects. Now, did a review just recently looking at printing brightly coloured images. This was one of them, and I'll put a link to that in the notes for this particular video. But this is about settings and your choice of settings. Let's have a look at the image I started off with. Now, this is a picture. This is a cactus, or lots of cacti, in a pot in our old conservatory, and you can see hopefully even on the screen here, and I'll not go into color choices for video. I'm just hoping that my setup here gives you a good feel for the colors that I'm seeing here. We are going through the vagaries of video recording and then through whatever YouTube does to videos, so do bear that in mind. But here's very bright red, orange coloured flowers. They are an intense colour, and they're quite difficult to photograph. One of the problems is that if you use your camera's normal metering, it will often overexpose the red channel here. So whilst they will look okay, you've got burnt out detail in these strong colours. So what I actually needed to do for the print is underexpose slightly. So this image, compared to the last one on this monitor here, looks quite dull. However, it has captured all of the range of colour. How do I know that? Because I've shot this, and this was taken on an old Canon 100D, and it's a camera I use a lot for taking photos when I'm writing articles and I want to include something. It's just quick to use, and I've used it for years. You don't need expensive kit to make great photos. There's the colours of that. I've taken that from the camera. The camera, incidentally, is set to Adobe 98 as its colour space. Thing to remember though, that most cameras, when you set the colour space in them, you are setting the colour space, which is the range of colours captured by the image. You're setting the colour space as for JPEGs. The colour space, if you process the raw file, can be whatever you want. So I set it to Adobe 98 just as a matter of course. It didn't really matter what I set it to, because I'm going to be processing the images from RAW. If I'm doing web work, and I know that these pictures are only for web, I work in sRGB. There is nothing wrong with working in sRGB. This is one of the things I think people get a bit worried about. They think, oh well, I'm losing colours, or I should use big colour spaces. Well, yes, big colour spaces can help, but and remember this throughout all of what I'm talking here, I'm a professional commercial photographer, an architectural industrial photographer. When we supply images to clients, That includes this one here, which was done for, for a chip manufacturer. When we supply these images, we supply the images in the sRGB color space. Now, unless somebody at the client specifically says they want a larger color space and can convince me they know what they're talking about, we will supply images in sRGB. I've never had a complaint. I've never had somebody come back saying, these colors are not quite as intense as we wanted. In the real commercial world, sRGB works fine. And I'm going to say, if it works fine for commercial images that we charge for, people buy off us, they come back, they get us to do work for it, then it could well be good enough for you. So that's just a little caveat there as to not to worry too much about color spaces, because with most people, color spaces are the least of their problems. It's something to try and fix technically when the real problems lay, and you probably know this, with your photography. Modern printers can produce great prints. I could do it on any modern printer almost. They're good. Modern cameras can produce great prints. Yeah, the real problem, if you've got problems with your photography and your prints, it's almost certainly your skill levels. Applies to myself as well, but it's, just remember that before you get too worried about all this stuff about color spaces. But anyway, I've got this image I've taken here that I want to print, and I want to show detail in these flowers. Now, there's not a hope of showing it here on the video here. The colours are just too intense for that. But when I process the images, and I'm just going to use Photoshop as an example here because it's what I do. It could be Affinity Photo. You could do it in Lightroom, although that makes a few assumptions and choices for you. But I'm opening the raw image here. This was in an old version of Photoshop, and I'm looking at the histogram, and I'm seeing this is for sRGB. And I noticed that if I pick sRGB as my output space, this is the color space that image is going to be, and it's going to be the space that I'm going to be editing it in, there is a spike as clipping at the far end of the red. In other words, despite how well I've exposed this image, if I output the image as sRGB, the strong colours in it are going to cause clipping on the red channel. Clipping on the red channel will lose colour detail, and that'll lose rendition in the picture. So that's sRGB. There's Adobe 98. Now, Adobe 98, if you're good doing print, is a perfectly good choice. There are colours that can't be printed, that can be represented in Adobe 98 that your printer probably can't manage. There are colours that may not be displayable on your screen. Now, this particular screen here is it's a BenQ 2700, and this one's a wide gamut screen. So this has a roughly Adobe 98 gamut. So I can edit Adobe 98 comfortably on this. In case you're wondering, do I need an Adobe 98 screen to be able to edit Adobe 98 pictures? No, you don't. Because before I had these nice screens, I had an old Apple large monitor, and that was near enough the sRGB color space, and I edited all my prints using an sRGB monitor. I just had to be a bit careful with strong colors, but I was able to use one professionally for years. Of course, it helped that in sending pictures to clients, I was sending them out in sRGB anyway. So, all these worries you might see on forums and the like about color space choices and things, it really is nitpicking about stuff that probably for a lot of people doesn't really matter. Now, they'd like it to matter because fixing it then would be a way of improving things on the cheap without making the effort. But it doesn't always work that way. Likewise, if you want to understand color management, read the book. I'm not going to attempt to go into the detail that it covers in here. It's very well written, very readable, but if you want to know it properly, read the book. That's it. But anyway, so that's with Adobe 98. Well, you think, well, okay, I might as well use Adobe 98 for this particular image. However, what about if I go for a very large color space, ProPhoto, a larger color space that has colors that this monitor can't manage, it has colors that I can't print, it has colors that are in a way imaginary in it. Now, that sounds it's going to be trouble. No, it isn't. You just have to be a little bit careful. The histogram here has changed. It's now got the entire image is nicely captured within the range of the histogram. If I go back to Adobe 98, yeah, it's okay. There is perhaps a tiniest suggestion of a bit of clipping at one end there. But if I go to ProPhoto, I've captured as much of the range of colours that the camera can capture. And remember, there's electronics in the camera that are doing processing and things. Even on raw images, there's some processing going on. Then there's your choice of raw converter. As I say, I'm using Adobe Camera Raw. This was quite a few years ago, so it's an oldish version, probably CS6. That's changed over years. But whatever's going on, ProPhoto gets me detail. Now, it gets me detail in the images that I almost certainly can't see on this screen. Just because it's out of gamut, however, doesn't mean that nothing's displayed. It just means that if I've got a limit and I want to display two colours that are beyond that limit, they will both, and they're close, they'll both be matched to wherever the limit fits them, which means that the intense colours won't come out wrong. I may lose fine detail and gradation, and certainly in the structure of these flowers, because they're such an intense colour, there may well be structure in there, tonality, which could, with a bit of editing, be printed. But if I was to just work in sRGB for this, it would be lost. It would just come out as solid red. Now, of course, that is for taking an image like that and printing on high-end inkjet printers. Now, the range of colours the inkjet printers can get are covers why you do profiling. This is the range of colours that this particular paper can manage, and I can't go beyond that. That defines the print colour space, but I come to print colour spaces in a bit. We're still talking about editing here. So I've decided the raw photo, I'm going to edit this in ProPhoto. Quick diversion about the use of ProPhoto. If I'm creating black and white prints, I always work in ProPhoto. Why ProPhoto for black and white? Well, it maximizes, as I've pointed out on this histogram here, it maximizes the image detail and information that is passed through into the file that I'm editing. I'm then going to convert that to black and white. Gradations of colour that may not be visible here may well, when I convert them to grayscale, be visible as variations in grayscale, in slight detail. So it means that detail I can't see in colour here, when I convert this to black and white, I may be able to see details. ProPhoto just keeps everything. I don't throw anything away. Anyway, that's a quick diversion as to why I always use ProPhoto when I'm starting with black and white images. Once I've converted them to black and white, doesn't matter, they're just black and white images. I'm working at 16-bit. If you're doing anything like this, certainly if you're going to work in ProPhoto, work in a minimum 16-bit. Now, at the moment, 32-bit and other more advanced workflows are not necessarily so easy to use. That may change, but whatever it is, for strong colours and things like this, don't work in 8-bit. Not working in 8-bit means don't work with JPEGs. If you're going to do anything with JPEG images, if you're going to print your JPEGs, have them as Adobe 98 and then print them. If you're going to put them on the web, sRGB. In fact, even printing, if you're just sending pictures away to be printed, sRGB may be fine. Because it doesn't make that much of a difference, not at the level we're working at there. So anyway, I've done this, I've got my file. How do I look at those pictures? How do I know what's there? Well, in Photoshop, there's a tool I can select called a gamut warning. Now I've got the image here, which is in its color space, and I'm going to do a soft proof here with an out of gamut warning on it, and I'm simulating sRGB. The grey areas of this picture here are the areas which are beyond the sRGB gamut. Remember, I've converted this image into ProPhoto, so it's a huge, big colour space, lots of colours in it, massive range of colours. sRGB can't manage that. Photoshop conveniently shows me these grey patches here showing colours that are beyond sRGB. And if I see something like that, I know that I've got an image that simply won't print well if I'm on a sRGB workflow. I can make an okay looking print, but I'm going to have to do things if I want to reproduce those colours, because gradations in these colours are lost. Quick note that the gamut tool, or the gamut warning tool on Photoshop, is a very blunt tool. All it shows you is that a colour has exceeded the gamut. It doesn't unfortunately tell you how much, so you can't really tell from this how much these areas are out of gamut, just that they are. Now that's sRGB. There's a version with Adobe 98. Suddenly the amount of colours that are out of gamut are much reduced. So there we go. We've still got a few, and there are some and I deliberately took this picture because I knew how difficult it would be to reproduce the colours. It was specifically for this purpose, but we've got colours here that we can't quite mention. And if I go on here, just as a curiosity, that's out of Adobe 98, just beyond the gamut. As I say, doesn't mean you can't edit them or do anything, just that they are beyond this arbitrary layer. If I do a soft proof against the monitor profile, I can see which colours are in the image but can't be displayed. So there we go. And that's soft proofed or gamut checked against the monitor profile. So here it shows me it's actually better than Adobe 98 in this particular region. The monitor can do slightly better than Adobe 98. See, the amount of grey drops there. So the screen is fine. Yeah, if I'm editing Adobe 98 colours, the screen's fine. Now, there may be areas, particular colours, where Adobe 98 goes a little beyond what the screen can do. If stuff like this matters to you, then you're probably working in commercial proof, commercial printing, and if you don't know this stuff, then you really should, and read the book. Yeah, did I mention? Yeah, read the book. So there we go. We've got the different options. The gamut warning here gives us an indication of where there are colours that may cause issues. Okay, that means if I look at this image here, and if I'm working on it in ProPhoto, I know that, well, I can get an idea of what things are going to look like on the screen, but the screen's only going to give you a partial idea. But then that's the case anyway. You never get screens and prints to match because they've got completely different ways. Now, if I'm doing this for, say, for web, I'd be working in sRGB, I'd do a few tweaks, yeah, I'd get a nice pretty image for it and it would look great on the web. I could tweak that, doesn't really matter what edit in, as long as I save it in sRGB, I have a good idea of what it's going to look like. But for print, I want a bit more control over this. And as I said, that gamut warning tool is a bit of a blunt tool. What about this? Suddenly we've got very few areas showing up grey. What's this one? This is a soft proof and a gamut warning against glossy photo paper, and it's Epson Premium Glossy. Now this is using the printer profile. This is on the Epson P5000. I happen to know that's what this is printed on. This one is printed on. This one's printed on the Canon Pro 200 as this one on a metallic paper. That's why this one is really jumps out at me. Hope it looks good on the screen as well. It's showing what you can get from dye inks. Looks good on that, but this one really jumps out for you. So there we go. That's the gamut warning for the print, and it shows that the print for these colours is managing far better than the screen. So we've got ProPhoto, huge great colour space, covers everything. We've got Adobe 98, covers lots. We've got what the printer can manage in some areas, and here in these reds, it exceeds what Adobe 98 can manage. So for an image like this, I really would be wanting to edit, for making prints, I really would be wanting to edit it in ProPhoto. Now, I do that knowing that there can be gotchas in that I'm going to need to keep checking colours quite carefully. If I'm working on something on very strong colours, I have to spend quite a lot of while appreciating the differences between what the screen can manage, the print can manage, the camera can capture. It can get a bit complicated, but that's why I say I do commercial printing. commercial photography. And yeah, that's for making prints like this. If I'm doing a print like this and it's gone to a client, well, it's sRGB again. Just don't get too worried about all of this stuff. Probably doesn't make as big a difference as you were hoping for. So there we go. That's it. That's the print gamut if I'm going to print on a glossy paper. Just as a comparison, let's have a look at the gamut of Epson Archival Matte. Classic, brilliant white, matte white paper. Oh, there we go. Vast areas out of gamut. Well, it's not surprising really. I mean, if I try and print an image like this on a matte paper, you're not going to expect to get these colours of these bits of tomato and the various other bits and the yellow of the egg there. You're not going to expect to get that intensity on a matte paper as you would a gloss. So there we go with that. If I just go back, we can see there's very little. Now, I'm doing one other little bit I should mention on the print here. I'm picking a rendering intent of relative colorimetric. It varies with the image as to whether relative colorimetric or perceptual works best. In strongly coloured images, it's worth just swapping between them here. I've got black point correction, compensation selected here. It's a worthwhile default on this anyway. Won't go into the details of that, but you usually get a choice. Sometimes you might even want to try the saturation rendering intent. All depends on how the profiles have been built that you make from these things. So this is what the source material for an ICC printer profile is. The results of using it here and here. The profile should ideally make good prints. The profile's job is not to make the screen look like the print. The profile's job is to make good prints. Because remember, the file underneath here in the ProPhoto color space, we're seeing a version of that as the screen. We see a version of it as a print. So these are always, there's an awful lot of give and take between these things, and understanding what's going on is the real secret for it. So the quick guide to what I would choose for color spaces for editing. For print, I will normally edit in Adobe 98, sometimes ProPhoto if I feel it, always ProPhoto to start with if I'm doing black and white. If I'm doing images for clients, well, I may edit in Adobe 98 because I've got an Adobe 98 screen that, so it just makes a bit closer what you see, what you get, having the screen here. But when I export those images and send them off to clients, they'll get sRGB. Most of them would not know the difference if it fell on them. And I'm going to say that if commercial clients are happy with this, then perhaps you ought to think carefully before you get yourself tied in too many knots worrying about colour spaces. Yes, it makes a difference. Yes, it can give just that little extra bit of edge to really bright, colourful images. But for most images you're going to take, probably not. It's far better to get your tonal balance right, to get your exposure right in the camera, how you process your raw images and things like that. The editing choices is meaningful, but not necessarily as important as some people would like. And we'll say that the other bit is, I'm going to say it once again, just going to read the book. Yeah, there are lots of interesting and useful bits on this. Another good one, there's a copy up here, Adobe Photoshop for photographers. I've got several editions of this. Unfortunately, Martin Evening, who wrote this, died recently. Really great bloke, knew him from the photography side of things. And the book, that also, Adobe Photoshop for photographers. There are loads of versions for different versions of Photoshop. In fact, if you find an old one, then it's still useful. Most of what's in there will still be useful to newer versions of Photoshop. This has an excellent colour management section in it as well, and is worth a look. I'll put links to both of these in the notes for the video. Anyway, I hope that's been of some help. Please feel free to ask questions, because I know this is a subject that a lot of people get a little bit mixed up in. And I'll just finish off with another picture. There's a row of prints. This is from when I was testing the Epson P7000. A row of sunset prints. Each one of those has been edited as a soft proof to get the colour just right for that paper. Now, I've covered stuff about soft proofing and editing elsewhere, how much I use it, why its general use, it's often overused, but when you're making prints, having an understanding of the nuances like this can make just that extra bit of difference, give your images just that little extra bit of punch to them. If you don't know this stuff, it won't make that much difference at all. But if you want to get into to printing and getting the best out of your prints, it's not just about printer settings. It's about everything from when you take the picture, lighting, exposure, right the way to editing, how you process the raw files, through to how you decide to print and the paper choices you make. The whole lot all play together. But there you go. As I say, I hope that's of use, and please do subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.